Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels, and this will be our first episode of a book club that we've got at least, I think, a year and a half lined up of reading already. Um,
That's it? Just one
and
year?
unfortunately, or fortunately, Tom King's also pretty prolific. So by the time we get to the end of the current reading list, God knows how much more he'll have written.
There'll be a whole new reading list by the time we get to the first.
Right. Um, So I proposed this idea to Psychocomicology, and I was so happy that they jumped all over it. I have Dr. Edgar Ramos, Larry Lee Woods, and Samantha Chavez. Uh, you guys can give your specific credentials if you like, but they're Psychocomicology, and we're going to look at the works of Tom King, but we're going to specifically pay attention to um, both the mental health aspects and the ways that they can be helpful to the reader, um, that might be going through something similar enough that being able to see Superman go through it or Batman go through it can be valuable. And as I read Grayson volume 1 through 3, which is what we're talking about tonight, I went, "Oh, we're starting with the Tom King that has the least feelings." It does still have some, but he hadn't like
Develop
become the
fully.
totally Tom King, all the feels guy yet.
Yeah.
He was still playing it safe.
Right. Well, and he was co-writing with Tim Seeley, and he was learning how to write comics. And I've talked to Tom a couple of times about that, and he credits Tim like hugely with teaching him how to write comics. Tim has said, I mean, I showed him where to put the commas, but I think he was being
And I guess that's a question I had is
he was
that
being pretty humble.
where did Tim Seeley how and where was it separated in the book?
Um,
Like
what
do
it was is they plotted together.
so it was a shared story.
Yeah, they did all the plotting together, and whoever it says is the writer is the one who
Mainly.
was most responsible for the script of that issue.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was curious about that too because I was looking at it pretty intently regarding Tom King. I'm like, okay, plot. Okay, we know we got spy stuff coming up.
Right.
So like Tim Seeley being like the experienced sort of comic book writer, I'm like, okay, well, where does Tom come in here? And then when I started reading Tom's actual issues where he's credited as the writer, I was like, oh, okay,
Well,
Yeah.
it
getting
because
somewhere.
it's interesting because like when you get used to Tom's style of writing, you see his writing like within it, where like he peeks out a part of the story,
Right.
like, oh, this is definitely Tom. Like
Yeah.
he's definitely writing this part. So you can
The
tell,
parts back at Gotham
yeah,
felt very Tom.
yeah.
Or on the phone with Batman. It felt
Yeah.
very
On the phone with Batman generally felt very Tom.
Tom, right? And that
For that matter, relationships with both the matron and number 8
Yeah.
felt like
well,
they
all
had
the relationships. I mean, we
yeah,
saw
felt like they had Tom's fingerprints on them.
the
And I'm not saying that Tim doesn't do that stuff too. He does some. I mean, Hack Slash, the relationship between Cassie and Vlad is real and fleshed out over time, but it's fleshed out over a lot more time with a lot more hacking and slashing in between the relationship stuff. Whereas Tom tends to do relationships and throw in a page or two of action is what it feels like. And or like I was just talking about him in an interview earlier today. One of my favorite TV writers is Aaron Sorkin, and like he's known for the walk and talk, and I feel like Tom has mastered the swing and talk. Whether it's Batman and Robin, or Batman and Catwoman, or Supergirl and the little girl, or Human Target and Ice. Here we're doing this stuff, but we're also having a serious conversation with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what was interesting to me is just focus on the relationship stuff right now is I got to see, and I'm gonna stay away from other dick jokes, by the way. But
we put parental advisors on our podcast. You don't have to. I mean, your wife is here, but
I'm here. It's
if
okay.
she can handle it, we can handle it.
well, I got to see Dick in a new light. Let's just say. So I was really enjoying like the suave debonair side that he had, and it was funny because the intensity of the relationship, I was like, that's Tom talking. But then the giddiness of the relationship where the girls are swooning over Dick and all that, no pun intended. I was like, that doesn't sound like Tom. That doesn't seem
that felt more Seeley.
Yeah, I'm like, felt like a little bit more like that has to be
Naming
Tom.
his cheeks.
Yeah, that just doesn't. So, but I guess the beauty of it was how well it was integrated. Like you saw like the swooning and the childlike, relationship. Not that it's a bad thing, just the childness of a relationship and the giddiness of a relationship, and then the deepness of the emotionality between a relationship. So you almost got to see the whole picture in one little caption, from child way of looking at, relationships to an adult way of looking at relationships. So it was beautifully integrated. I'll say that it was beautifully integrated, but you can definitely see the difference, the contrast, of him. And that's what I thought was really good. Because then it attracted me more to Dick in the sense that I'm like, wow, this guy, he's a passionate, compassionate, like just has a fire within him. I'm like, wow, like you really relate to him relationally. Like, wow, he just seems like someone.
The first time I read Grayson was the first time I went, you know what? I need to pay more attention to Nightwing books.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm going to become a regular Nightwing reader, but the way this reads, I don't feel like they're making it up from whole cloth. I feel like they have favorite Nightwing books that fed into it. So that means that there are certainly books in the, before it that are probably worth reading. And if they can do this, then they're going to set the standard for people coming after. I haven't read all of Tom Taylor's run, but I've read parts of it, and you can see that Dick has really come into his own, rather than just being the bat sidekick.
The boy wonder. It's cool seeing, because I read a lot of the New 52 stuff, and so reading Injustice and everything, his character has really come far from being Robin. He's come a really long way into where he has his own personality. He has the suaviness of Bruce Wayne, but not as much as the trauma of Batman. So he's almost what I wonder, Bruce Wayne could have been if he had his own Batman to guide him.
Right. I mean, that's always been something that I've found fascinating about Dick Grayson to begin with, is that somehow, because he had Batman, the guy who never got over his parents being murdered in front of him, he was able to get over. I mean, get over is not the right word. You never get over. I'm certain you guys will be the first ones to say he was able to better healthily process his parent, the processing that Batman still hasn't done.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I mean,
Dick had done by the time he was in his 20s.
He had Batman. Batman had Alfred, and Alfred was what, ex-British intelligence? He was his own secret spy agent. I can only imagine. And then, I mean, realistically though, Dick was both raised by Alfred and Batman, but they had also other supporting characters that were there to give him the stuff that they couldn't give him.
Right.
Maybe I don't know if you guys have read back in the 80s, I think it was. So my history.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there for that time.
Sorry. Some of us are a little bit older, but
I read some, possibly. I remember when Jason Todd died.
So this is what was running through my mind as watching, and right now I'm just still speaking only on relational, is that as I was watching, Grayson with his relationships, the thing that came to my mind is early relationships with Starfire and
Okay.
how, and I
I've heard
think,
about those more than I've read them, but yeah.
yeah, so I was thinking about that and the intensity of that was and the difficulties they had, and tribute to George Perez back then. But I
Right.
was like, wow, he's really evolved from that, level of relationship to now. Like he was like the very caring and loving, but he didn't have the suave, the debonair that he has now. So it was
The
this evolution.
confidence. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I remember about and why I never got huge into Nightwing. It's like for a long time when I'd come across Nightwing, because I never really read Nightwing. So like anybody who's a huge Nightwing fan, you're welcome to email us at 22 panels podcast at gmail.com. I love getting email, but like don't hate me because I'm speaking only from limited experience. It always felt like he just had like that inferiority complex. Like he knew he wasn't Batman, but he didn't want to be a sidekick anymore. And
well, that was his whole
he
struggle is that
hadn't found him.
quite Batman. Yeah, he wasn't quite
Right.
Batman, but he was evolving when he turned into Nightwing and what is it, Tales of the Teen Titans, like the
Right.
Trigon history, I think it was. But he was with Starfire, and you can still see that, like he just wasn't. Yeah, I think your word is good. He wasn't confident enough. He wasn't himself yet where he's at now, and you just see that evolution relationally, even around people, his leadership, and his confidence, and that just really has. He's a whole different character from what I
I mean,
remember.
probably the most Nightwing I read was actually during um No Man's Land.
Oh,
I
I
read
did.
all of No Man's Land when it came out. Um, and I found myself annoyed by him as often as it's like, Dick, there's a ton going on and you're still being upset with Batman. It was a little bit of that in Night's End too, where it's like, I've moved on. Let me stay in Bloodhaven. Stop calling me. I mean, I don't think he ever quite said that, but there was that feeling.
I think it's interesting, like looking at like, because we really have seen him like grow up, like realistically, we saw him as a little boy. Now we're seeing him as like, what is he, like maybe 30s, like mid to late 30s, somewhere in there.
I mean, in comic book land, we don't age like that. I
Right.
mean, Batman didn't turn 30 forever.
That's
Batman
true.
was 29. The reason Dark Knight Returns exists is because on the morning of his 30th birthday, Frank Miller just realized that he was older than Batman and he needed to do something about that.
It makes sense. I feel it. I feel it in my heart. But like you see him go through like the stages of like the identity versus like role confusion when it's like, those early teen years to like your starting of 20s. And like I feel like you see that with him where like he's trying to get his identity. Like that's why you're annoyed with him, because he doesn't know who he is. So how are you supposed to read him and relate with him on, a more intimate level
Right.
when he doesn't even know who he is?
Right.
So you're wanting a character to give you something and say like, this is, yeah, I can identify with this person because they fulfill whatever this need is within me, but this person doesn't even know who they are.
And
Well, and
he's still the same kid because when you're looking at like he's grown up emotionally with relationships and you've seen that evolution. But every time you see that conversation with Batman at the end, it's just like, Batman, where are
Yeah.
you?
Are you there?
I'm all alone. You left me, Batman. Like you still see that like I need Batman. I'm all alone here. Like you still he was Robin again. Like that wasn't Grayson. That was Robin talking. And it was like really funny to see like this is a man who's doing all these flips and turns, women chasing him, like flying out, saving, like just evolved into a full-on super spy. But then when he talks to Batman, you see that kid again. And I think that Tom and Tim, both they're whoever really adapted that part did so well at showing the evolution of his maturity, but still the vulnerability of his innocence. Like it still shows that he's still that kid under Batman's wing. He still looks up to Batman.
I also I was really struck by like when he went home and worked with Alfred to put on the costume and the We Are Performers. And that also makes me sit back and wonder, particularly in light of, you know, how hard it is for him when Batman's not on the other end of the line, how hard it is for him when he has to go talk to his brothers about, yeah, I lied because I needed to. I know we said we'd never lie to each other, but Bruce asked me to, blah, blah, blah. How much of this suave Grayson that we're seeing is
Performance?
full on confidence that he's developed, and how much is he acting?
I think that's a very deep question. Well, even when they were at the diner, when he's telling them, this that he lied, whatever. Did he say Bruce asked me to, or did he say Batman asked me to?
They weren't at a diner; they were on a rooftop.
Yeah,
Rooftop, that's right.
Um,
Well, I'm gonna see if I can.
I don't know that he specifically. I think he just said he.
To me, there's a difference when he speaks. He vacillates when certain, I think, emotional stances when he says Bruce, and then when he says Batman.
Right.
And I think when he references Bruce, there's like a more
He
like
always references. I think he references Bruce when he's telling them that Bruce didn't need them anymore for the batarangs that he gave them. But I think when he's talking about well, actually with Batgirl, yeah, with Batgirl, he said he asked. He didn't use a name. It was her that said he asked. I get it. Batman asks, and you say yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, he definitely has a different relationship with Bruce versus Batman.
and I think it shows when he's relaying, and that's where I think you see his own vacillation of when it's Batman, it's like that's dad, and Bruce is more family.
I think Bruce is like the father, Batman is like the patriarch.
Yeah, like Batman asks, I got to do it. Bruce, like he can argue with Bruce, but he can't argue with Batman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you definitely see that relationship, and yeah, it was a good dynamic. Then Damian being Damian, impulsive.
Oh,
I love.
when
Well, I love that Damien's the only one that's like, yeah, of course.
yeah, I love that he gave him a hug, like just
Yeah.
straight up.
Aren't you going to tell me I'm an ass for hiding for doing it all? Don't you already know you're an ass? I don't really see the point in me having to bother with it.
I love that part. I was like, I'm like,
yeah. I love
like,
that Damien's the only one that's like, of course.
Yeah, that
makes sense.
It is. You know, like
it's a Tuesday. That makes sense.
Yeah, but it tells you like his relationship with Bruce and Batman, where Damian stands. So it
well, and like particularly for those of us who are lucky enough to have read like Super Sons and like the Damian, fallen in love with the Damian that isn't quite as serious as that original Grant Morrison Damian. It's easy to forget that, oh yeah, like he was raised by his mom and grandfather.
He was a homicidal little maniac.
Right.
He was psychopathic. Come on.
Yeah, it's like when I'm reading Birds of Prey now, which another fantastic, Kelly Thompson's run on Birds of Prey is just amazing. I have to remind myself of like the early Batgirl issues before she even started talking. Right? It's like, oh yes, Cassandra Cain has come so far because she laughs now.
Yeah. Yep. It's the evolution and like the theme of like identity. Like how do you like how do they form their identity? How do they perceive their identity? How do they give off their identity to other people? Like, and how do other people then perceive the identity that they are giving off? I feel like that was a really big theme within like the Grayson series, and that like because the trippy part was that it's almost like the text wanted to confuse you. Like, is he Robin? Is he Grayson? Is he like, is he Dick? Like, who is he? And it was like, well, I don't know who he is. But the whole time, like, even when he was being thrown those challenges and those questions, he always seemed to know who he was in that moment. And he's like, well, sometimes I am Robin. Sometimes I am Nightwing. Sometimes, like right now, I'm Grayson. Like, sometimes I'm Dick. Like, he always knew who he was, and he was comfortable with the fact that he had multiple different types of his identity.
Right.
Well, I mean, the title is Grayson.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's already in of itself. It's like, I'm not Robin. I'm not Nightwing, you know? And I don't think they wanted to call it Dix for obvious reasons, but
I also think that there was an element of Bond, James Bond.
Yeah. You know,
to naming it Grayson.
Like you know how he called, like there was a rationale behind Grayson, you know, and I thought that was clever, very cleverly done, very cleverly done.
I think they even explicitly stated it as well, right? It was like the whole I want to say, was it the Midnighter, where
I think so.
Like, oh, I know your rhythm, I know you're like jazz, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, you know Robin, you know jazz, but do you know punk rock?
Right.
And then hits him
right
to the chest.
Right.
So he definitely, at least from what I've seen, and I'm definitely looking at this from someone that's not very well read on Nightwing in general, Batman in general. So this is not my first time with like Tom King, but also Nightwing.
Right.
It's really cool to sort of see those dynamics, not just with the role identity and confusion, but also the family dynamics. I think that was one of the cool things regarding, because I definitely saw myself in that sort of older child sort of situation there.
Yeah.
But then also like having to lie to protect my siblings. So it was very interesting for that, and especially the little one. Like, I don't care, I still love you, right? My little pseudo, right? I thought that was really cool to sort of capture those dynamics. But I 100% felt his struggle. He was Grayson as the agent. He was Agent 37. He was Dick with the ladies. No pun intended.
Right.
Just that
I gotta wonder if it was Seeley that called him Agent 37, and if it's a Kevin Smith reference.
Really? I got a Get Smart reference is what I was getting at. It reminded me of Get Smart.
I mean, I believe that too, but I meant the 37.
Oh. Please.
Have you not seen Clerks?
I've seen.
Oh, it's been such a long time.
So when they're having the conversation about Snowball and what that means, and initially Dante thinks that it was a friend that had given him the blowjob, and she's like, no, it wasn't Sylvan that blew him, I did. And he's like, what? You told me you'd only been with 3 guys. Well, because I have only been with 3 guys, but you know, sometimes when I go out with a guy and things are going well, I go down on him. It's not. Wait a minute, how many dicks have you sucked? Something like 36. Is that up to and including me? 37.
I got to rewatch that movie, and there's your explicit rating. You got it.
So I can't help but wonder. I mean, 37's just, I mean, particularly when we only know other agents as 1 and 8.
Yes.
37's kind of an odd number to pick.
That's funny.
I mean, it is also Nuke LaLoosh's number in Bull Durham, so maybe somebody had just watched, you know, an old baseball movie recently. But yeah. my wife is hearing enough of us to text me, wow, is this part of your psychocomicology discussion?
It's funny because I was trying to figure out, does the 3-7 represent the letters of the alphabet? 7 is G, then I'm like, well, the 3 is C. I'm like, what does the C stand for? Is it for Grayson? I'm like, so that I was looking at it very simply, I guess. All right, I gotta ask, did anybody struggle with the first book?
Yes.
With the
A
first
little.
issue 1?
Little.
Yeah.
And
hard to digest.
Actually, the one of the things I was going to bring up is Lee was talking about not having a lot of experience with Batman and whatnot, is I don't have a lot of New 52 experience.
I have not.
But I do know enough about the New 52 to know that it's kind of its own continuity. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to figure out, okay, what parts of what I know about Dick Grayson actually apply to this character versus don't. And Batman in particular was even weirder inside the New 52 because because Grant Morrison was in the middle of his phenomenal run. Batman was the book that didn't entirely follow the New 52. So
New 52 was just weird. It was a weird time, which is why we went into the Rebirth.
Right. So yeah, I tried to take it as much as possible just as it was, rather than thinking too much about what backstory applied.
Mm-hmm. Well, because the continuity in New 52 was just all over the place.
Right.
The stories kind of mismatched. There were so many different issues that you had to read to bridge gaps between other stories that it was like, wait a minute. I read 52 when I was in grad school. So that was my read while I was in grad school. And even I had a hard time in the first volume of Grayson remembering wait a minute, what happened?
Right.
I remember this, but I don't remember that. So where's the piece that I'm missing?
Right.
So
I know New 52 overall has love-hate relationship that people have with it. People who were heavy into the continuity before New 52 happened tend to hate it entirely. Whereas there are plenty of people that are in and out that absolutely adore it because of some of the great stories that got told because of the lack of continuity.
Well, that was a whole Injustice happened during the New 52.
Right.
So that was a great story until you hit the last couple pages and you were like, what the heck just happened here? So that was it had a lot of good stories. It had a lot of good character development happen within it, but the continuity was all over the place that you never fully understood what was happening. So I think that's why it was really hard, at least initially, to get into the first volume of Grayson, because you don't really know where is this coming from? What is what was
why is Dick dead?
Yeah.
And apparently Luther killed him, but what?
Superman is not Superman anymore, and I didn't.
Well, that was actually, I think, an issue from what they called Convergence. So that was a weird offshoot event inside of New 52. I don't know if there was actually a long period where Superman wasn't. I think it might have just been the Convergence issues. I don't know.
Yeah, I was a little confused.
I enjoyed that story by taking it as just a standalone. Mm-hmm. I tried to just take it out of context, just think of it as a fun story. But yeah, it was a little weird.
So as a whole, I know we talked about the relationship as a whole. To me, knowing Dick Grayson from early stuff, and I mostly only read him. I didn't really read him in Batman. I read him a lot in Teen Titans. I used to read Titans. So that I used to read back in the 80s, because the true story here, most of those issues were in the quarter box back in the comic book shop. So
there you go.
They were cheap reads that I can get, so that's what I read.
Was it actually a quarter box in the 80s?
Yeah, it was a quarter box.
I mean, that wasn't actually that much of a discount.
It was in the quarter box. Yeah, they were all quarter box. It wasn't,
Okay,
but it was one quarter only.
no, I understand, but what I'm saying is I want to say that like cover price was 40 cents.
No, it was 65 cents at that
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay.
It was 65, and they just jumped to 75, like in 86, somewhere around there. But yeah,
Okay.
they were in the quarter box. So it was much more affordable. I can get 3 comics instead of one.
Okay. I
So
like that.
when I was looking at like, and I
So it's
obviously,
like the dollar box now.
yeah, pretty much. So I didn't read the whole thing. Obviously, I read the first 3 books so far, and it was really kind of, to me, conceptually was like, it's what used to be the boy wonder now shown as like his independence as a man, but still showing you that. And I was trying to put myself in Tom King's head. Like, this is a man who's solving things, acting mature, relationships, struggles with, familiar things. But at the end of the day, this is a man who's still struggling with his inner childhood, still struggling with the shadow of Batman. No matter what, he can't get past the shadow of Batman and his vulnerability of he still needs that father figure in his life that he doesn't have a father figure that, and I think we said it earlier, he didn't, that he processed through this more. I think he may have processed through it more. I think he shows himself better than Batman does, but I think he's just as traumatized and scarred as Batman is. It's just that we see the better sides of it. Like his adaptive skills are much more socially acceptable, but he's still that kid, on that phone saying, "Where are you? I'm left all alone." He's still that kid. And for me, that's what it's Tom King showing. Like, it's funny because I put myself in his head going like, this is a guy who's fighting a war or in war, and he's still like he's scared. He's still a scared kid fighting a war, and he acts and does the war. He's doing what he needs to do, but internally his admittance and vulnerability of fear is still existent. And I think that's to me what really got me to see this character, really like this character, and really understand Tom King's point. Like, you can be tough, you can be smart, you can be the super spy, but we all still have that inner youth in us, that little kid in us that still gets scared and still wants our dad, or still wants that support from that father figure, that authority figure that helps us get through this. Like, he's in there for Batman, and he still needs him. And that to me, what I kind of was seeing is that he can have all these relationships. Heck, even in some of the panels when he's sitting there, he looks like Batman. You put the cowl over him, you put he looks like Batman. And it's funny. It's like he can act like him, he can talk like him, he can even look like him, but he's not Batman, and nor will he ever really be Batman. He's his own person, but he's still a child struggling with fears and the realities of those fears. And that's what I thought was that sensitivity that Tom puts on paper, I think is great, like showing that, you can. I mean, Tom, for everybody out there, everyone knows that Tom worked for the CIA. And if I understand the story correctly, is after, 9/11, he wanted to help out or whatnot. And he went in there. And,
Yeah.
and it's funny because that's what I was seeing Grayson, is that he wants to help out. He wants to do what he needs to do to infiltrate and follow through with Batman, but he's still scared. He still needs him. And it's like, I think Tom was putting
Well,
story in there.
I'll actually take it a step further.
Please.
Because, post 9/11, Tom signed on with the CIA, and it was like 2011, roughly, that he asked his wife if it was okay for him to leave the CIA and become a novelist. And 2012 is when Once Crowded Sky came out, his one and only novel. So, and it met with some acclaim, met with some criticism, and didn't sell great. So here you are, 2015. He left the CIA after a decade, not as starry-eyed, I think, as he went in. I mean, I think he was smart enough that he didn't go in completely starry-eyed, but both from conversations with him on this show and from reading Sheriff of Babylon, I think there was at least some disillusionment by the time he left about exactly what they were doing and how effective it was. And then he tried to be a novelist, and like I was just glancing at the Wired review of it, and it was essentially like Tom King wrote a comic book, but he made it a novel. You know, not in like the most flattering way. um, you know, I mean, thankfully, through like family connections, he interned at both Marvel and DC, so he knew people. You know, he spent some time on the Comic-Con circuit with Once Crowded Sky, and you know, suddenly he had an opportunity to do some writing at DC, but I'm not certain what level his confidence was at that point. You know,
well,
where he felt about himself as a writer, where he felt about himself as anything, and I think that shows through as well. I'm not saying that I don't. I'm not projecting that I know Tom was a mess or anything like that. I don't want to say that, but I know there have been times in his life where he has been. So I'm certain that he was drawing from some of those because there is a lot of that with this. It's like Grayson from the get-go is like, okay, I really don't want to be doing this. I'd rather be with my family. I'd rather be in Gotham, but I understand that since my identity is known, it's safer for them if I'm dead, and at least Batman put me to this good use infiltrating this scary organization. But like from issue 1, it's like, okay, I'm making the best of this situation more than this is where I want to be. This is what I was meant to do.
I think it's interesting because you made a point in saying like, you know, Tom called his wife and said, can I come home now? Like, can I come
Well,
home?
I think he was home, but he asked if he could quit the CIA and become a novelist.
But Grayson there's a panel in there where Grayson's on the phone, sitting on the bed, you know, talking to Batman.
Can I come home?
And it's like it mirrors so perfectly, and like I think that is one of the things that Tom King does very well, is that he has like these very human relationships, and the way that he demonstrates, you know, the fear, the way he demonstrates like the family, like wanting to be a part of the family, but having something that's like keeping you back, like whether it's like your work responsibility, whether it's like, you know, something that you've got to be doing. He writes about that well because that is something very personal to him.
Yeah, he writes. I think the difference in some that I read books that are like quote psychological is that they almost try to tell you what to do about problems and what should be done, or what could be done. And to me, so far, like reading this, Tom isn't trying to tell you what to do, what you should do, what could be done. Tom is working through his problems or how he works.
He's trying to show you an issue and show you an attempt to work through it. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes it's effective and sometimes it's not.
He's definitely, you know, through his,
I mean, that is to me, that's the biggest recurring theme of Tom King. He's not telling you how to get through your problems. He's showing you problems. He's showing you people trying to work through them in realistic ways, and they're not always successful.
Yeah, and at least with the sorry, go
ahead.
Yeah, and I think the means in which that with Grayson was the lying, right? Is lying okay? Is lying a means to an end? And is that okay, even though it maybe pisses off your family, right? It's interesting because that was it was interesting. What you said, Ted, is I didn't take it from like the sort of counter-terroristic sort of point of view with Tom King's experience. I took it from the sort of MK Ultra and the sort of historicity behind that. So it was like this whole idea of lying and deceiving and manipulating people, and through this sort of hypnos technology, even with some of the interactions between the matron and him. It was interesting. It's like, oh, like, are you using this even if you tell me to stop? Are you just going to make me stop anyway, or I'm
Right.
done, right? It For me, it was much more of like, how can he sort of stay true to his morals or values, albeit going back to what Dr. Ramos said regarding Batman. Like he wants to kind of be there with dad, right? And live the sort of dad's value. I don't kill, right? That was an
Right.
ongoing thing there. But he's also very much like struggling, trying to be that person, still being humorous, which I think is the
Right.
way he sort of coped through all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I would have to rely on y'all here. I don't know how well he's processed his sort of traumatic experience with his parents dying as well, but I could definitely say he smiles a lot more than Batman. You say that
Yeah.
much.
Definitely smiles more than Batman.
Depends what era of Batman you're looking at. Older
That's true.
Batman, there was a whole bunch of smile, cynical.
Yeah.
Then it got
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah. That's true. Pre 1980s Batman, he
Adam West
smiled a lot
really
more.
loved smiling.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
all of old Batman was always smiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's funny is you didn't really see books work through a lot of trauma. Like, even like older Spider-Man, they addressed it, but it was never really like you didn't see the process of what they were going through too in depth. It was good that they touched on it, like this was the history, but you didn't see Superman struggle. You didn't see not any of these. You didn't even see Batman struggle. Like in the early Batman, it wasn't
Oh
really
yeah. No,
pushed
no.
through. Like so you're really seeing it now, just the depths of it really kind of come in. And I think even though it's been for several years going on now, a lot of years, I think we're still in the infancy stage of how how it's going with these characters, like really fleshing out their mental health. And I think that's the beauty of
Right.
where we're at right now. And I think
Oh,
writer
absolutely.
Tom is doing great with it because he's projecting onto these characters his process, his mental health, and how he processed through it. And he's writing it down because I think he's also processing his own and then sharing it in written format and prose. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I think we see a lot with it. I mean, you look at Jeff Lemire as well. I mean, he does,
Yeah.
parent-child relationships is almost everything that he writes about is parent-child relationships.
Right.
So you really get to see that. And it's interesting and fascinating that these writers are doing these things. I think Tom is notorious for me is the depths about his PTSD is
Yeah.
what I think is just he's I don't know what his training is, nor do I assume to know what his level of training is, but his capacity for explaining trauma in a way that's not clinical, so people can just feel it and experience it, is I think
Right.
he's a master at. Is that
Yeah.
you could know and understand what trauma is, never having to read a DSM or having to go like, well, I'm going to diagnose it. These are the symptoms. Never once does he calculate symptoms or describe a symptom like, straight out of a clinician's handbook. He's
Right.
telling you the story and the process as lived through. And I think that's the
Right.
mastery of what he does, either through his own personal experience or whatnot. But yeah, those are the things I'd love to ask is, are you sharing your personal experience of trauma, of how you've learned how it feels? Or do you have some training behind it? Because he definitely shows it. And that's the fascinating part.
I want to go back to something that Lee mentioned a second ago because I think it is a big part of this book, and that's the nature of lying and what constitutes a lie, when a lie is okay, when a lie is only okay if it's not discovered. I mean, because I mean, like, and I think the three different responses are so good. Tim and Jason are just pissed as hell, and they're not willing to. Barbara is angry, but mostly forgives him, and Damien is like, yeah, of course.
Love you.
Still an asshole. Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at that lie, first of all, the lie is 100% in omission. He allowed them to continue to think that he was dead. which already puts it in a weird realm of lie. You know, is it a lie if you don't say it versus you know, particularly because I mean, obviously in his case, he knew that they'd want to know, but how many times are lies of omission not even entirely deliberately lies of omission? It just never came up. You never thought to tell so and so this thing. Hello, how are you? It's
Whose
okay.
phone was that?
I'm like, where is my phone?
It was yours, Dr. Ramos. You left it at home and it rang. But yeah, so I mean the first is what's, you know, I mean how do lies of omission versus lies of commission differ? The second is like how much does the motive behind the lie matter? You know, in this case, he's lying to protect them. I mean, even more than he's lying to protect his cover, going undercover and doing this thing, he's lying because his identity has been outed. So to be around them puts them in danger. But then again, at the same time, you flip it over and like, should they ever swing the roofs of Gotham again, etc., they need to have ridiculous trust for each other. They need to be able to know that the other one will be there to catch them, or the other one's watching their back, or whatever. I brought up Aaron Sorkin earlier, and there's a West Wing episode that centers around a decorated female pilot being court-martialed for disobeying an order about having a relationship with another service member, and like the people without military experience are treating it as, you know, would you ever give that order to a man? Would, you know, like blah, you know, and very, I don't want to downplay the validity of those arguments, but there's a scene between the president and his chief of staff where the chief of staff, who's had military experience, is, you know, the president's like, you don't think that after all that training she knows the difference between a combat order and another order? And the chief of staff's like, they're all combat orders. If you're going into combat with somebody, you can't wonder if they're gonna you need to know that you're all on the same page. So I mean, there's just so many different layers to, like, both how as Grayson do you make that decision? How as Jason or Tim or Barbara do you then work through that when he comes back? You know, is it, and this is actually a place where comics often fail us immensely. It's like, oh, you were the villain 3 issues ago, and now all is forgiven.
I feel like they do a really good job in like recapping that, because they're all, you know, Todd and Barbara, like they're all like upset with him for lying, because they're like, you said, like, how am I going to trust you to catch me when I fall, like when you have lied to me? Like I thought you were dead. Like we were all under the impression you were dead. Like, and because he told you not to tell us, like, so you just didn't tell us. I think it was I think they wrapped that up in like the items that he gives them with like the secret message, like when he gives them like Batman's first like batarangs.
But here's my question there, because for all of them, I also felt an element of, oh my God, you're saying these wonderful things to me. oh, wait, it's just a code. So I don't even know if you mean that thing that you just said to me because it's a code.
But the
So wait,
code is the one that they played when they were kids.
If I can, so I hear what all three of you are saying, and I think, and maybe this is the psychologist in me, I think we're missing the point. To me, wasn't the lie. The lie was irrelevant because the lie was a metaphor for basically, look who got mad. It was the people that internally said, "You're acting like fucking Batman." And who's the one that
Absolutely.
said, and who's the one that said, "Oh, this is the Batman. You're acting like my dad." Yeah, I love my dad. And
Right.
so what it was is the lie was the metaphor for you fucker. You're not one of us Robins. You're
Well, and it wasn't
fucking
even
Batman.
totally a metaphor because with the Robins, they talked about like, we don't lie to each other. Bruce lies to us.
Yeah.
We don't
We're
lie to
Robin,
each
yeah.
other.
So it wasn't the lie. It's the performance of you're being a Batman, not a Robin.
Right.
And that
Right.
it was more of a sign of like loyalty, like you're not one of us now. You're up there, you acted like him. You're not supposed to be him. You're supposed to be one of us. And that's where I think that's where they got hurt. Now when it comes to their objects, that what does Batman do? Batman gives a little bit to bring them back in, like, it was manipulation, so I do think that he was manipulating them back, using that as a tool. And I think that's what you were saying, to manipulate them back into, like, it's kind of like domestic violence, like, let me slap you and then tomorrow I'm gonna get you some roses, I'm gonna buy you a pendant and go like,
So
yeah.
we went from you seemingly defending Grayson here to you accusing him of domestic violence.
We're dynamic. We go back and forth.
Which is it, Dr. Ramos?
Well, isn't that Batman? Batman will slap you and you won't recognize it, and then so that's essentially what Grayson did. It's the cycle of violence. It's that, hey, if I'm gonna hurt you, but I'm gonna get you something nice because you're gonna remember the nice thing more than the bad thing I did to you. That's what he does. And it's Batman. That's so.
It is.
I agree with you in the theme and the concept of what you're saying. I would not necessarily compare it to a domestic violence relationship in which they're receiving gifts. I agree with the theme. I agree with the theme.
That's the cycle of violence. The cycle of violence is that when you get abused, you do something good, because what happens with our memory is that we only recall the good things more times than not than the bad things. So after every abusive relationship, after every abusive tactic, what abusers do is once they hit you or they abuse you, then they call it the honeymoon stage. They buy you nice things and they revel in that, because memory wise, you're only going to remember that. And that's what you see, like Batman historically, is when he does bad things is that he creates these nice things for character, for family around him. And that's what you see what Grayson did, is that I'm going to get you these memory things to make it better. And that what I'm saying is that it's not domestic violence. That, don't confuse what I'm saying. Is what I'm saying is it's the tactic of what is used in a domestic violence situation of, let me gift you, let me do you something nice so you don't remember the bad thing I did. So it's the the tactic, not the domestic violence itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Very different.
So we're not calling Grayson an abusive
No,
brother.
yeah. So but
He's still an asshole, but he's not that kind of asshole.
Yeah, but he's using a tactic from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the tactic is all like what is it, like sentimental family things.
Mm-hmm.
Like it all means something to each of them.
But it's still a tool, because it's a message behind it. Like, it's, codes, like it's still a tool for him. So it's shrouded in still this, Batman-esque.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's good. I mean, nonetheless, it was good. But yeah, I do see the lie stuff. But I stand.
Right.
He just betrayed them as a Robin, and he acted like a Batman.
Well, because at one point his identity was Batman. Like, he was a Batman.
Yeah, actually, right before this.
Yeah.
Right before this, he'd been Batman. While Batman was dead.
Yeah.
He'd been Batman to Damian's Robin for part of Grant Morrison's run.
Mm-hmm.
So identity is huge. I mean, I can't wait to read the whole thing and see, like, so who the
hell?
Yeah,
no, I actually can't remember if I've read volumes 4 and 5, and I know I haven't read Robin War. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to the reading that I've set up for next month, which is going to be volumes 4 and 5 in Robin War. The reason I wound up throwing Robin Moore in as well is because apparently, like, the first 2 issues of Robin Moore are part of Volume 5, I think. So it's like, why not just do the whole thing?
I'll be the first to tell you that I wasn't planning to do it, but I mean I got the omnibus.
You got the omnibus.
I got the omnibus, and I was just so stoked with Tom King's run in that sort of Agent 37 arc that I just kept going, and I read the next
kept going?
2 issues of the Robin
Okay.
Moore. Like, this is weird. This is different,
Right.
but I'll keep going with it. I was like, oh, I'm on the next one. Yikes.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I seem to remember getting to about this point the last time I read it, because I remembered him going back. I didn't remember that Batman had amnesia at the time, but I remembered like the stuff with the siblings. It's the best way to put it. They're siblings.
Yeah,
Though Barbara's a weird one because she's like part sister, part lover, depending on like when.
It depends when.
That's New 52 behavior. We don't talk about that.
What continuity are we
Except that I
referencing
think
there?
they're together again.
Are they?
I know they have been.
Wait, who's
where I
Batman?
get confused.
That woman is.
No, this
No,
is
no,
Batgirl.
Nightwing.
Oh,
No. Not Batman and Barbara. No.
I'm like
Dick
Barbara.
and Barbara. Dick and Barbara.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just along for the ride.
Isn't
I
Barbara's a lesbian? Is she not?
I feel like there was a time when she was.
She's
Barbara's gone through some
Changes.
different periods.
No, I
I
think you're
remember
right.
Barbara was also paralyzed for
not. Yeah.
a while, and
Is that when she was Oracle or something?
Yeah.
yeah.
She was at the
Yeah.
computers.
Barbara's a fascinating character.
That's where I get lost. Yeah, I'm so unread on that I don't know.
It's New 52 behavior. We just roll with it.
Right.
Bit of a new phrase, a new 52 behavior.
New 52.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing the wrap up of this, and then I think it will be the way I have it laid out now for anybody who might want to read along with us and to give you guys a little bit more of a idea. And I'm still plugging in some of the single issue stuff that he did, but like we'll do Grayson and Robin War for next month and a couple single issues, short story type things. Vision. So we'll do his one non DC superhero book after that. Come Back for Sheriff of Babylon, which I know Dr. Ramos is going to have to
I think I'm on
work
vacation.
hard to get through. But I still insist it's among Tom's best books. It's so good.
Strange Adventures.
Also so good. Omega Men, which is one of the it's like the one book that had enough sales issues that like I want to say he wound up getting to finish it in the graphic novel form, but not all of the issues came out. And then we get into 3 months of Batman. And I kind of like that we're putting time between the Grayson and the Batman because they're not really quite the same universe. If that makes sense.
Batman's now
Because
Rebirth.
the Batman is Rebirth.
Yeah.
So it's after Final Crisis. It's after.
Well, I have to be honest. So I read a lot of these out of sequence, because I read some of these way before. So it's like now I'm going.
Oh, I get it.
And trying to put them in the sequence that we have them. So I'm like, okay, because I read Batman Rebirth.
That was my first. I mean, I think I didn't actually read Grayson at all until somewhere in the middle of Heroes in Crisis.
Okay.
I discovered Tom King when Batman proposed to Catwoman, and I went, "Wait, what?"
That's what I did too.
Right. And I grabbed that issue and I went, "Oh, this is amazing!" And I immediately went back to the beginning of the run. I went, "Holy fuck, this is good!" And I've read everything that Tom King has written ever since.
Heroes in Crisis. what got me.
Yeah. Heroes in Crisis is amazing. Mr. Miracle. I mean, again, like it's hard to pick favorite Tom King stuff for me.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few.
I can only pick least favorite Tom King because of like how quickly he matured as a writer. You know, my least favorite is what we just read, and clearly we all liked it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If this is your worst comic book work, you're a hell of a comic book writer.
Well,
You're pretty good at
Okay.
well, I can't wait till we talk about Sheriff, because that's the one that I'm struggling with. I don't know.
And
I'm gonna reread it, read it again, and
the scene in the empty swimming pool alone makes Sheriff.
You know,
Like the opening scene and the talk about chocolate. I'm not actually doing spoilers, Lee. You don't have to.
All right, good. Thanks.
I'm just giving you things to like when you hit it, you're going to go, oh, got to pay attention here.
Got it.
he did Human Target too, right? Did he?
He did. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
Human Target.
That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
reads. Human Target.
From Batman, we'll do Mr. Miracle, Heroes in Crisis, Superman Up in the Sky, Rorschach, which I think is criminally underrated.
Yes.
I understand why, because there are certain people that, for good reason, don't like when Watchmen is by anybody other than Alan Moore, because DC kind of jobbed Alan Moore. You know, they promised him that they'd give him the rights back after a year, with the caveat of if it goes out of print. And they have famously kept Watchmen in print ever since. At the time, there was like graphic novel collections weren't a thing. You know, it was like the first graphic novel collection that stayed in print for an extended period of time.
They said,
And
you know,
it's been in print ever since.
one? Watchmen.
Right.
Like we got
Right.
that forever.
Right. But then we've got Strange Adventures, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Human Target, Batman, Catwoman, Batman Killing Time, Love of Everlasting, which might has another possibility of like my favorite. It's hard to pick a favorite, but it's in the running too. Gotham City Year One is amazing. Danger Street, the Joker story from Batman Brave and the Bold, his Penguin series, and then we get into Wonder Woman, which I know Samantha loves with me. Helena Windhorn, Animal Pound, Jenny Sparks, and Black Canary, best of the best so far. I know he's got other stuff on the horizon even. So, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the end and there's gonna be another 50.
Yeah, I was about to say, by the time we get, I mean, right now we're on what, issue 19 of Wonder Woman, and by the time we get to Wonder Woman, it'll be into the 30s.
Well, we'll be definitely. Well, I mean, we'll probably be on volume 4 by that point, because volume 3 comes out April.
Oh, we'll be way. I mean, again,
4 or 5.
We're at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're more than a year from getting to Wonder Woman.
So he'll probably be on volume 4 or 5. Will be out by then.
So what you're saying is we have to do
maybe
digital
6
copies
by
now.
the time we get to it. And for that matter, he'll be deep enough into it that we'll have to start to debate. Do we want to read Wonder Woman after Penguin, or should we do Helena Windhorn, Animal Pound, Jenny, you know, the miniseries, and then jump into Wonder Woman?
Yeah. Yep.
Good problems to have, right?
I could think of worse ones for sure.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to more of this. And for Psychocomicology and 22 panels, we will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.